Don't try to sneak into your room like that. I know what you've got behind your back. Records. More new records.
Look what just showed up. Here it is. It's the Tom Petty box set, the Wildflowers box set. This is the Super Deluxe Vinyl Edition, and I have it first. Nobody else has this. It comes out October 16th, but I'm going to show you what's in it. We're going to unbox it together. I don't know whether that's exciting to you, but it's very exciting to me. You can notice I haven't cut my hair. It almost happened the other day, but it didn't. So how did I get this early? Rick Rubin emailed me and said, since you're the only person in North America with a turntable, you could help us out. We have this big box set coming. It's the Deluxe Wildflowers box set, Tom Petty's 1995 monumental record. And it's being done in a box set that includes his dream to have this out as what he originally envisioned this being, which was a 2 LP set or a 4 LP. Anyway, it was going to have twice as much music on it than what came out originally. So there's 9 records in this set. So I got sent test pressings months and months ago, and I was asked not to talk about it, which I didn't. And here are the test pressings. And they asked me to listen to them and see if there were any technical issues. They were fairly certain that they were well produced in terms of what they sound like, but technically, how was it? So I went through the 9 records, and believe me, it was not work. This is one of the few boxes that I can recall where all this extra material that you get in addition to the record that you know and love, which is basically Tom Petty telling his life story. It's an autobiographical record. Most of these records, most of these box sets that come out with all this extra stuff, they're extra for a reason, because they were cut out because they weren't so great. Everything on this box, I mean every song, everything that's here was worthwhile and worth listening to. And we're going to go through the box because, honestly, all I had were these records and one sheets. I didn't really have details about what exactly I was listening to, other than the fact that I really liked what I was listening to. So let's open the box together. I'll show it to you. Here it is. It's still in the shrink wrap. All right, so I'm going to undo the shrink wrap right here. But before we get started, I'll show you what I did the auditioning of the test pressings on. I used that turntable right there. And I didn't use that turntable. That just showed up. That's a whole nother story. And I used this phono preamp right here. This one down here. CH Precision P1 with the X1 power supply. And I also used the Ypsilon VPS 100 as a tube test. And I played them back on the Wilson Alex speakers, and I used my Dart Zeal amps. All right, let's open the box. All right, so I'm going to undo the shrink wrap right here in front of you so you can see it. This is so exciting. You can be old and still love this stuff, let me tell you. And especially because I know how great it sounds. You know, the original Wildflowers, when it first came out on 2 records, but cut from a 1630 CD master, because people didn't really care about vinyl back then. It was going away. Then it was released in 2015, cut from the original half-inch analog tape, and that sounded much, much better. Then it was cut again for this box set, because they really just wanted this. They wanted this to be perfect. They cut it again, and I auditioned that, and it was great, believe me. And then after I was almost finished, they said, "Wait, we cut it again. We think we got it even better." So they sent it again, and they got it even better. Chris Bellman did the cutting at Bernie Grundman's mastering, supervised by Mr. Ryan Ulate, who is the engineer of record on all this, and who did a fantastic job, I will say. So here it is. It's a nice cloth-bound box, beautifully presented. All right, now I'm going to open it. And the first thing you get is, you get this. I have a neighbor down the block who was probably the preeminent Tom Petty tribute band called Damn the Torpedoes. And I have to invite him over here with a mask on to hear some of this stuff. It's a very good band. Okay, let's see. Now this is going to be the book. I should be looking at you while I take the book out. Wow, it's really nicely done. Perfect bound book. I'm not going to read every page. It's so sad. I just way too young. There's Rick. Rick almost cut his hair too, but he didn't. Never did. And there's Tom and Rick. The dark-haired Rick. And more pictures from the studio. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole book here and see what it says, but I will tell you that it's a track by track. That's good. Track by track, so you know what you're listening to, track by track. All right. And great pictures of Tom Petty. Okay. So, and then, there's actually a more deluxe box than this, where you get all kinds of memorabilia. You get a hand-signed something or other, but this suffices, So here are the records. Interestingly, they went back and duplicated the general gold original one. This is now Warner Records, not Warner Brothers Records. The brothers split up, and they went back and got the original motif of the gold label, Warner Brothers label. So the test pressings were done at Record Industry in the Netherlands, in Haarlem, the Netherlands. And the test pressings were almost perfect. There were a few minor little things, some of which I couldn't tell whether they were just the particular record I was listening to or whether it was in the stamper, because I only had one set. Normally the people that proof this get two sets. So if they hear something, they go, uh-oh. And you had to sit there with a stopwatch. That was the thing. I sat there with a stopwatch, and it was like, oh, at 6 minutes and 2 seconds here, there's a little tick. But I didn't have a second set to see if it was on both. So all I could do was report back what I heard and send them a couple of pictures. So what is here? I know what is here. Yesterday I watched a Zoom conference on a private Zoom conference that David Frick supervised or hosted, along with Ben Montench and Mike Campbell and the president of Warner Music, Warner Records, whose name I don't recall. Sorry, and Tom's daughter, and who else was there? I think, and Ryan, the engineer. They were all there, and they all answered questions. And so what we found out was they never did find evidence of what Tom's intention was in the original multiple record set that included everything on Wildflowers and, as it says here, all the rest. Well, all the rest includes not just what he was originally considering to have on the record that the label made him cut back to a single CD, but this includes Ryan went through all the tapes, all the multi-track tapes that he could get to in the studio, and he assembled another version of Wildflowers from alternative takes that is really as fascinating and great a listen as what did come out. And then, in addition to that, to the best of my recollections, because it's not particularly clearly laid out here, there's also a whole live show, and the live show is amazingly good. I mean, this band was great live. If you've ever seen them live, they always had to put on a good show, and they also had a good mobile studio following them around when they did live shows, and so the sound on the live show is phenomenal. It's absolutely exciting. The whole thing is exciting. So I'm going to see whether this does go through all the alternatives, because I'm looking at it for the first time, folks. So track by track, let's see. Cast of characters: Tom Petty, Mike Campbell, Ben Manchette, Steve Ferrone was a drummer that came on board later. Rick Rubin, Ryan Uliate, Jim Scott, who was the engineer in Wildflowers, and Ryan was engineer and co-producer, and the Heartbreakers live mixing engineer Robert Scoville, who did a great job. So obviously they didn't do overdubs on the live performances that they found. Nobody did vocal overdubs because Tom was gone. So it gets all of the tracks that we know so well, and then let's see, and it tells you where it was recorded. Most of it was done at Sound City in the Valley, which is that legendary studio, which was a great idea. That's why this thing sounds so fantastic. And of course, cut to tape. Now let's see. Okay, all the rest. Now we get to all the rest. So it's got Something Could Happen, a previously unreleased song and recording from July 1993. It's got, everybody said, Leave Virginia Alone, previously unreleased. And there's also a description of what these songs are about, some of which you can figure out just from listening to them. Climb That Hill Blues, Confusion Wheel, unreleased. California, alternative version of California, originally on She's the One. Many of these tracks, or some of these tracks, were on the She's the One album, which I think I have here somewhere. But I didn't pull it out. I don't want to show off. Okay, and they talk about Harry Green, previously unreleased song and recording. Hope You Never, alternative version, Somewhere Under Heaven, released in 2015 in the Entourage film. Climb That Hill, a different one than on She's the One. And Rick, Ryan, and Mike Campbell have comments here. So it's really interesting because you get to also hear the alternative tracks or the unreleased tracks and get some background on why they weren't released or what you're going to hear. Alternative version of Hung Up and Overdue from She's the One. Let's see what else we can find here. Then home recordings, yeah. So Ryan went through these home recordings that were done to I think to an ADAT machine. And these were written between 1992 and 1994. And Tom said, the songs were almost seeming to write themselves, and he produced nearly 30 tracks over a 2-year period. Which is very similar to my experience in that period of time. Nothing was written, and I didn't do anything. Okay, so, what else is on here? There Goes Angela Dream Away. You Don't Know How It Feels. There's a previously unreleased recording of a song that we all know well. California, Feeling of Peace, Leave Virginia Alone. Crawling Back to You. Even though I played all of these things and proofed them for test pressings, I didn't know what I was listening to. I mean, I had some general idea that it was an alternative set of Wildflowers done as an alternative version, and I also knew that I was hearing the live album, obviously, but I didn't really have all this backdrop. So as I go through this to review it, and I'll get the review posted as soon as possible, I have a much better idea. Now, the live one, there's stuff from Toronto, from the Fleet Center in Boston from 2002, Shoreline, Mountain View, California, 2000, Fillmore, San Francisco, 1997, Forest Hill Tennis Stadium, they just call it Forest Hill Stadium now, not tennis, Cabin Down Below, Mansfield, Mass, the Tweeter Center, Tweeter, etc., Sandy Boomberg. You don't know what that means, most of you, but he does if he's watching. House in the Woods from Beacon Theater, Girl on LSD from Wachovia, Philadelphia. Anyway, these are great. Then there's alternative versions in Finding Wildflowers. That's at the very end after the live version. So this is unreleased recording of Higher Place. Higher Place, I don't know if anybody noticed this. If you listen to Higher Place, it does sound a lot like a Rascal song. Find Somebody to Love. It does. Need somebody and find some... I don't know whether that was an inspiration or whether that's just a coincidence, but it sounded like it to me. All right. Heart on Me, Cabin Down Below, Crawling Back to You, Only a Broken Heart. So these are all... There's just so much here. And everything on here is great. So... That's all I'm going to say. And then the back here is all of the credits. The credits are compiled by Ryan Uliate, curated by Mike Campbell, by my attention, Adria Petty, and Akim Violette, and Dana Petty, who was Tom's wife. Chris Bellman, mastered of Bernie Grunman, and Anyway, there's all kinds of thanks on here. So it's very cool because a lot of people were involved. And that's it. That's the box. Here are the records. I will say, from having listened to the deluxe box, I didn't, the super deluxe box has some tchotchkes in it, like I think there's some jewelry and all kinds of other stuff. That's nice. But I will say that this deluxe box with the 9 records is definitely worthwhile. It's one of those. I love the fact that they have the tape reel in the back. This is a set of complete extras and extra material that's absolutely worth getting. If you're a Tom Petty fan, you will absolutely love this. And I can say that even though I just opened the box because I've heard everything. Okay? Anyway, it was my pleasure to bring this to you, and I'll have a full review up as soon as I can muster the strength to do it, which is probably means I'll have it tomorrow. Okay? Enjoy.